Hey everybody, welcome to Raising Vibrations. And in this video, I want to talk to you about the current Mars and Pluto square that's going on in the sky at the moment. And I also want to reflect on the ongoing square between Venus and Uranus. These two planetary systems that are currently squaring off with each other and having this very tough conversation is most likely why you're noticing heightened states of irritation around situations and circumstances, being a little bit more emotional towards things that are taking place within your life, and probably why you're feeling a lot of sudden and rapid changes that are taking place within your life as well. So what I want to do is show you how these planetary systems are reflecting a current evolutionary pattern, and I hopefully will be able to give you a way to look at these changes and how they reflect your ongoing evolution as well as what is happening within the collective. So hopefully I can ground that in this video for you today. That's my plan. Before I jump into that, I just want to quickly say thank you to those of you who subscribed to the online EA conference that's happening this weekend. I'm very excited for my lecture, and I'm also very excited to see all the other EA presenters bring through their perspectives and themes on their lectures as well. Okay, so let's start off with Mars-Pluto aspect and think about how we can begin to embrace this pattern that is currently moving through us at the moment. So it's actually it's Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, and Mars is currently in Libra at the moment. And you also have Mars forming in conjunct to Neptune in Pisces. So we've got Mars in conjunct Neptune, and then we have Mars square Pluto. So we have a personal planet of Mars forming aspects to outer planets, Neptune and Pluto. So the first thing that I want you to think about when you see a type of system like this is you've got a large pattern of energy, like a large conditioning field, which is Neptune and Pluto, very deep, very buried deep within the landscape of our conscious awareness. So very deep, has a lot of gravity towards it. And then you have a personal planet like Mars that is kind of floating around the surface saying, hey, why am I so sensitive to these deep undercurrents that are moving through me? So immediately there's a connection between our attention and deep undercurrents, right? And that's why it feels so intense for us. Because usually when you have your conscious sense of self floating on the surface, the things that we process are like, oh, I'm hungry, or oh, look, the weather is this color, or this is what I'm thinking today. But when you're dealing with outer planets like Neptune, Pluto, Uranus, there are more complex, deeper, denser states of reality that are now flooding into your consciousness, right? And you're submerged in this process. So the way that this translates for us when we're experiencing our day and we have these outer planetary connections being made to personal planets, what we're having in our emotional field is an extra sensitivity, an extra irritation, an extra feeling of overwhelm within ourselves. Because now we're no longer paying attention to the simplicity of the color of the weather, but more about the deep emotional patterns that we carry throughout our lives. Conditioning field, right? We are consistently experiencing something and then experiencing something, and it layers on top of us. So now all of a sudden we're more sensitive to our wounds. We're more sensitive to the parts of ourselves that have not formed in ways when we were growing up that, felt that they could slide in together. So here we had a negative experience and we internalized this in every experience. And here we had an experience that we perceived a certain way. we now get the opportunity to feel the contours and the layering of these different dimensions of ourselves. So it's natural to come into more frustration, more sensitivity, more emotional feelings that lie on the spectrum of what it means to be human. Now, for the most part, we generally tend to disassociate from those experiences because we feel the intensity. We're like, whoa, I haven't been trained to handle this. And so therefore, we'll resort to habits and patterns that help us numb from that. The thing here is that the current reality that we're living in doesn't really allow for this. We can't afford to disconnect and detach from that. It starts to deeply affect our emotional well-being. It impacts our mental health. So Pluto, through Capricorn, since 2008, has been bringing a tremendous amount of the emotional material to the surface for us as human beings. And throughout the last 12 to 13 years, we've been coming into ways that we can start to emotionally regulate our dysregulation. We've been forced into situations and experiences where we've needed to find ways to cope with what it means to be human, as well as address underlying patterns within our emotional welfare that are actually disadvantageous to us. That's the word I'm looking for, actually. So fast forward to where we are right now, this Pluto square with Mars, along with Mars is in conjunct to Neptune, is saying, hey collective, every one of you has been on this journey for quite some time, and you've been receiving the downloads, the lessons, the emotional tools necessary for this moment. This is the moment, with Pluto ending its cycle in Capricorn, right? Pluto's not going to be in Capricorn for much longer. It's already moved into Aquarius. It's now retrograded back into Capricorn for a bit. It's going to turn direct again. This specific moment in time is us emotionally preparing for the final exam, the final boss, the final hurdle, as it were. And so you can imagine when you've experienced the end of something, or when you've needed to complete something and you're right at the end over there, and the heel is just a little bit more intense than what you have energy left in your system for. And that last moment is like, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I take all of my strength and find it and integrate it into this moment so that I can push through or move through or get over this last hurdle? That's what this Pluto-Mars square is about. It is a combination of not only the need to begin applying all of what you have learned to the situation, but also to find, solidify, and integrate and synthesize the challenge of Pluto and Capricorn, which is to find emotional self-mastery and self-structure and self-internalized sense of like I'm grounded. This is where I stand, right? That's the mastery piece, and all of the tools that you need to implement while being presented with a tremendous amount of stress. So there are some really profound changes that are actually taking place in your life right now with this Pluto-Mars square. You just need to look around to see how you're being challenged to mature that little bit more, to grow out of your comfort zone a little bit more. And the way that you grow out of that, or you grow into, let's say you grow into your deeper states of maturity, you grow into a wider acceptance of depth in your emotional field. You do that by applying all of the tools, the tricks, the experiences, the circumstances and situations that you've been on for the last 12 to 13 years, this is the moment where you begin to start applying that. Particularly the emotional welfare. When Pluto moves into Aquarius, the pattern changes. So this Mars-Pluto square is putting on the pressure for you to simultaneously come out of a pattern that no longer serves you anymore by stressing and pressing on those parts of you that need strengthening. The inconjunct to Neptune is you don't see how this is healing you. You don't see the sensitivity or the irritation as parts of the wound, parts of the emotional development, parts of the faulty structure that require that last little implementation, that last little brick, that last little piece of wood, or the glue, or anything it is that you are putting into this beautiful house that you've built that will hold you for the next 50, 60 years of your life, 70 years of life, depending on how old you are. Because when Pluto moves out of Capricorn, that's it. We don't have that in this lifetime for us. What you've strengthened now is what you take with you. Very Capricorn thing to say. Okay, so let's move on to Uranus and Venus. And what's really fascinating to me in this context is that Mars and Neptune are making an inconjunct. And then we also have the South Node and Aquarius, or Uranus, pardon me. Uranus is making an inconjunct to the South Node. So we've got Venus squaring Uranus and Uranus making an inconjunct to the South Node. The same patterning as before with Pluto, Mars, Neptune. The only difference is that it's a different set of principles. And they're actually working together. Okay, so Uranus, Venus, South Node. This pattern is creating very fast, accelerated moments within your life. So Pluto Mars is creating the stress line for you to say, come on kiddo, grow out of that comfort zone. And Uranus Venus is saying, this is the pattern that goes forward. This is the pattern you need to jump into. This is the thing that's happening in your life that's going to push you there. So they're working together, right? One is a stress in terms of pressure, and the other one is an acceleration of consistently things happening at the same time. And emotionally, that can actually tear you apart. Uranus can tear you apart. Because what it does is it accelerates your reality to such a degree that your sense of security and familiarity of where you are gets disturbed. And you're like, well, this is feeling uncomfortable because I'm being asked to jump into something I have no idea where I'm going. So there's a lot of things that have accelerated within your life over the last couple of weeks and are now reaching that point of exhaustion. I bet you feel exhausted right now because so much rapid change has taken place. The piece that I want to give you in terms of insight is that Uranus will rapidly change something, move you in a different direction. And your mind will say, well, I've got to figure this out. I've got to figure this out. Where am I going? I've got to figure this out. I want to encourage you to recognize that you can't. The landscape changes so fast that you need time to integrate your experiences. So there are new scenarios, new landscapes, new places within your life right now that are emerging very rapidly and pushing you to change. And you have to, in a sense, recognize that as you step into that foreign land, you need to have that internalized security because you know that the pattern in your life is good for you. And over the next couple of months, this energy will start to land into your life and you will start to feel a little bit more consistency, a little bit more familiarity as you start to align with these new series of emotional patterns. The Venus square just simply recognizes that there's something new emerging out of the old. The Pluto Mars is saying, come on kiddo, grow out of the old pattern. So this is a very, very profound and fertile series of patterns that is changing the landscape not only of your internal reality and also your external, but the landscape of society is going to be changing with this energy too. So the way that you orientate, and I'll bring in the south node here, Uranus and the south node. Uranus in relationship to the south node, the inconjunct, right? Here's what's familiar. Here's where I've been. Uranus says, come on, kid, we're going here, we're going here, we're going here. And your relationship to the old, outdated self is becoming more and more apparent because you're like, wow, that is who I was. And it's like, you're looking back at yourself and the past way that you existed. And it doesn't feel as if that past identity exists so far into the past. It's like, it's right here. It's like, you don't feel past life like to me, because you're so close. And yet at the same time, it feels like a foreign person. I bet you, most of you will in some way, shape or form recognize what I mean when I say that there is a part of you that's existing just next to you, like parallel, that you can't really go back to because you know that you've grown out of that pattern, and this new self and the way that life has changed around you is so different that when you look at that self, you're like, wow, that was an old world or a different world. It's so close, it doesn't feel like it's in the distance, and yet it does in the same context. That's a Uranian experience. Okay. So, how to summarize this? Before I do that, actually, before I summarize quickly, again, I just want to let everybody know I have a few spaces left in my mentorship program for astrology. For those that you want to take your astrology from self-study to being able to do lectures, being able to do presentations, being able to actually do readings for people, being able to actually develop a business. That's what the mentorship is about. And I'm going to leave a link in the description below for you to fill out a small form. And then I want to be able to talk to you. So there's a free call that we'll have to kind of assess whether or not this is something that can happen. And I'll leave the link in the description. So if you really want to be able to go, yep, this is me, this is my time, I have something to offer the world, I love astrology, and I want to take it from the self-study space into something that actually has impact in the world, I want to help you with that process. So let me know your interest by putting the details in the actual link, and that will be found in the description below. And then I do have some more spaces left in the metamorphosis journey process as well. And I want to help as many people as possible find some sense of direction during these times. And there'll be a link to also do the same thing. Fill out a small form so I can get a good sense of where you're at. Then let's have a conversation. Let me see where you're at in terms of your needs. And if there's an opportunity to work together, we will. Otherwise, I'll be able to direct you to different places that can also support you in there. Okay, so there's a link in the description. Both of those links over there are there to help this community be able to achieve the best possible things. And using astrology as a tool to be able to guide us is like, we have this tool. Why are we not using it? Okay, so I want to let you know about that. Now, my summary for us today is this. Both of these systems, Uranus, Pluto, squaring your Venus, Mars, are rapidly changing the landscape. Surf the waves, allow your emotions to move through you. Don't get caught up too much on the drama of the sensations of frustration and irritation. Recognize them, withdraw a little bit into yourself and reflect on what it is that is irritating you. You will probably find something like, here's where a boundary needs to be put in place. Here's where I am noticing a sensitivity that still needs to be worked on. Here is a part of me that feels a little bit insecure and wants to address a deeper way of healing that. This is a profound time to be able to reintegrate yourself into a way where you can navigate the changes that are coming in the world right now, or that are happening in the world right now, where you're taking responsibility for your life, you're owning your projections, or at least coming into them, you're being able to feel a lot more confident in navigation in the external world, and you're being able to connect to a deeper reality that is your soul as well. So these transits are definitely accelerating us, and what I want to say is try to not figure out the Uranus piece completely, just be present with the moment right now and take each step as it goes. And with the Mars-Pluto square, just allow yourself the space to process the more deeper emotions that are coming up, okay? All right, my friends, thanks very much for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Leave a comment to tell me how this resonates with you. I always love to read that, as well as other people as well, okay? Bye.